All right, hello everybody. We're going to do a deep dive on alternative technology today. We've kind of talked around this subject. I've done that with Lavan and Bass here and Lynn and some other people, but I think it's time we actually talk about some of these devices in question. Um, Here up on the screen, I've put a few pictures of a Stirling engine, a tractor from the open source ecology project, a bioreactor, and some pictures of the somatic sciences, which has to do with sound geometry. Um, and there's a lot of things that we can get into here today on showing people how we can create self-reliant technologies. Um, and that can involve going off grid. That can involve doing it in your neighborhood, not being off grid, doing whatever you want. Just self-reliance is the key, where you're not relying on a system or relying on a government or relying on really anybody to make sure your family is fed, that you have power, that you're able to build and repair things and do things yourself. It really has a do-it-yourself kind of energy to what I'm trying to get at here. Um, Another piece of technology that a lot of people already know about, and that's why I didn't throw it up there, is hydroponics. That's a great new technology that people can be using right now to supplement their food supplies. Um, so let's just get started with this Stirling engine, really. And if any of you guys have anything you want to say or add, just feel free to jump in. So the Stirling engine is a temperature differential engine that doesn't require high amounts of pressure or steam to generate force. You can do this with you know firewood, oil, like an oil lamp or something, and just heat up the part of it that's the heat sink that takes in the heat, and this will create a difference of temperature on the piston in the engine. And here in the middle of the picture, I have um, a cutaway diagram of the inside of a Stirling engine to kind of show people how it works. On the left side, where this little orange circle is at, is where you apply the heat, and then it goes from left to right inside of that piston assembly to make the piston oscillate. And you usually have this connected to a flywheel, which is turning, and that can have a belt over it, and you can do many things. You can pump water. You can have that hooked up to a saw to cut wood, a hammer um, to hammer hot steel and form it into different objects and tools. Or you can have it hooked up to a bank of batteries that's hooked up to a alternator, a set of brushes in a surrounded by magnets to create electrical current, and you can trickle charge a bank of batteries for that. There's all kinds of things you can do with this. Um, so with that said, what do you guys think about that? What other ways do you think you could apply this, or do you have any other types of technology that I'm missing or that you want to talk about here?
Nice, man. Well, yeah, I think that the Stirling engine is sounds like a really good idea for places that are working with um, backup systems and batteries, and maybe need a generator, or something like that, or perhaps it could be incorporated into seems pretty energy efficient, into vehicles like on some kind of scale again. Um, I think that'll when I think about all this kind of stuff, the most pressing to me, it has to do with agriculture. A lot of land is destroyed and it's just been drained of its nutrients. And a lot of this stuff is basically, um, I think that would be like a good take for people who are trying to create capital, because it injects food, money, and opportunities for um, new applications. And it's just like, if you have dead land and there are ways to rejuvenate it, that could become like an entire project. We could have like sprawling oases like all over the place.
Right.
And so I'm talking about, I guess, like river restoration, permaculture. They build like water harvesting structures to help collect the water as it pools. It doesn't just like sink away into the ocean, and that it like lingers longer in certain areas to help basically regenerate water sources and rivers and ponds, like making huge ponds. There's all these restoration projects that it's like in the thousands of successful projects where they've created huge ponds or regenerated rerouted a river. And yeah, and that's one of the key parts, is they use water harvesting structures. And that's like the most exciting, because of the implications of how that would affect just I feel like that's like investment level type stuff. Like if somebody wanted to create a huge farm, it's like, it's totally doable if somebody wanted to invest that and do that the right way. That's what I think of. I think the Stirling engine is a wonderful idea. I want to see more things where essentially, like what you're saying, it's like you do it yourself, or it like takes care of itself, and like working with nature. Yeah, definitely.
Yeah.
Is like that.
And you bring up a great point about the dead land. So I have up here another invention that's old and used for other applications, but it could very well be used for farming. It's called a bioreactor. And what one could do is put different chemicals and bacteria inside of this bioreactor and churn out nutrients right on their land. And you could use a Stirling engine to power this device. The Stirling engine, in my mind, is kind of the heart of the new farm. This new way of powering all of your applications without having to pay an arm and a leg. The only thing you'd really have to worry about is land tax, and the stuff you produce out of your farm, you could easily pay your land tax. That's really kind of the place I think people want to get to, is not only a zero carbon footprint, but a zero bill footprint, like where you don't have to pay any bills, besides maybe your internet bill. But there's other ways that we can deal with that, like a mesh topography. But that's probably, we could probably touch on that. That is an alternative technology, creating your own internet across a country, where people can have servers that they host for pertinent information in this age of censorship. And people are doing that. But anyway, back to this bioreactor thing. You could have something producing specific nutrients that you can then spray into your ground, rather than buying fertilizer. Making your own fertilizer, doing your own mixtures and things that work for your property and what you're kind of wanting to do there. And then I also have another picture underneath the Stirling engine there. It's this thing that I really want to bring people's attention to. It's called the Open Source Ecology Project. And basically, there's this guy and his team of people that he's assembled over the past I guess 7 years, where they're making generic farm equipment that you can weld together yourself with angle iron, and it has like this concept of a power cube where you have one engine that you can unplug from one piece of farm equipment and plug it into another one. So for a very small amount of money, you can have powerful industrial farm equipment to do a lot of this heavy lifting for you on your farm, where you're just using one engine, or however many workers that you have. If say you have 3 people in your family that are able to operate this machinery, you can have 3 power cubes, rather than an engine for each and everything, and you can detach from this piece of equipment and attach to another piece of equipment, depending on what you're going to be doing that day. And I think that is a marvelous idea that could cut costs and help people do all kinds of things. And also, if you were so inclined, people could share their attachments. Like if you have a neighbor that you're friendly with and you guys get along, like, hey, yeah, you can use this attachment for the day. I'm not using it. I'm going to be doing this type of work today. There's just endless possibilities with that type of thing. Kind of like if somebody wants to borrow your ladder or whatever and you're not using it that day, you could do the same thing here with this.
Yeah, and in that sense, with regarding to that, I don't know, it makes me think of like also, well, modular technology in general, like not just for this, but also for like, I guess different technology that we use, our phones or laptops and all these a lot of tech in general that I don't know, I guess we could be thinking smarter about, so that, well, there's no like, I guess, planned obsolescence or something like that, so you can like you can just upgrade, repair easily, all of these things. And yeah, so there's not this like, yeah, that all this planned obsolete stuff going on, but then I kind of feel like it also comes then back to material too. It's like it's kind of also important to like to, I guess, rethink how we look at that, like how we use all the material that we have, so we become smart with it.
Yeah, yeah, exactly. And right now on my broadcast, I'm screen sharing this website. It's opensourceecology.org, and right here is just a little picture of each of the devices that this team of people have planned out and have blueprints available to, where you can start doing these types of things. And last year they had a summer design build, where you went there for 3 months and you learned how to build your own house, how to build a 3D printer, aquaponic greenhouses, tractors, and it looks like they're having a good time. There's a picture of people, balancing themselves on top of a tractor that they welded together. And this is just a great idea. I've been following this guy for a few years, and he's still making videos. His name is something I'm probably not going to be able to pronounce. It's Marcin Jakubowski. That's the guy's name, and that's his YouTube channel as well. Is just his name right here. But anyway, I just wanted to give the viewers a little picture of that. He calls this thing the Global Village Construction Set. So with this construction set, you would effectively be able to build a small town out in the middle of nowhere. And that's amazing because this could be applied to all kinds of other countries, pre-industrial countries, with just some of these materials like angle iron and a welder, which are easily transportable and affordable, rather than calling in some multi-million-dollar construction company, having people do it themselves and make it the way that they see fit. You can use the wood in the surrounding area and construct all kinds of these things and work the land. And as I said, with these bioreactors that you can make, you can revitalize dead soil by figuring out your own tailored nutrient broth, let's just call it. Another easy way, besides using bioreactors, is if you're close to the ocean, you can use fish. I know Bass, we had a really good talk with a farmer on there that used a mixture of fish, liquefied fish, and sprayed it into his fields. He said it didn't smell that great, but man, his crops were like so much bigger and nutritious than his neighbor's crops that didn't want to have fish everywhere. But there's all kinds of solutions like that. It doesn't necessarily need to be a technology, but I just wanted to kind of highlight some of these technologies because getting out there with a horse and a plow, that's kind of tough, and who even knows anything about horses anymore? So we kind of need to lean a little bit on some technology, I suppose, to maintain our self-reliance.
I wanted to add about the fish broth that he used. He used an invasive species of fish in his area, and I thought that was very cool.
Oh yeah, that is cool. Yeah, just kill two fish with one hook. Or kill two birds with one stone.
A win-win.
Yeah, win-win-win. Exactly. So,
Bass was talking about. Sorry, go ahead, man.
No, you go ahead, man. Go ahead.
Bass was talking about the sort of planned obsolescence, and that's an entire other way of considering this alternative. It's like what kind of, just from an aesthetic perspective, we're talking about power cubes, reconstruction, revitalization, huge venture sort of projects that could potentially, change the way that we see cities, and that opens up that kind of investment, for people who want to back that, but then there's the other side of it, which is the kind of, it's like this battle between that stuff, the planned obsolescence, and other sort of perhaps just in general wasteful sort of implementations, like to move away from that. What kind of things would have to be tossed aside and opened up for, perhaps it's even something as simple as cups, plastic products. What are we going to do instead of plastic? And and could we learn, how close are we to building machines that don't need so many expensive parts?
Well, with cups,
motherboards and stuff like that.
With cups, I mean, we just gotta go back in the past. I mean, they used clay. Everybody was kind of cool with using clay pottery, and I don't see why people couldn't go out into the dirt and dig some up. And I mean, I've done that. I've made some little clay sculptures and cups and things that where I found clay. in my area. Not all of these solutions, as I said, require advanced technology or a 3D printer or something. It might just involve you getting your hands dirty and forming something and leaving it out in the sun. And then you got yourself some plates and cups and things like that without using any plastic or bad stuff whatsoever.
Yeah, that's a really simple fix for that side of it. That sounds simple and smart. Like, I don't have a problem with that. That's a good idea.
Yeah, and it reminds me, it reminds me of these aliens in this TV show I watched, Stargate SG-1. Yeah, they're called the Asgard, and they acted like they were Thor with holograms and stuff. And they had this really nasty artificial intelligence enemy called the Replicators, and these aliens couldn't outsmart them because they couldn't come up with simple solutions, and so they talk to the humans and they're like, you guys are stupid enough to out-stupid the AI, and your weapons that use bullets and chemical propellant knock their blocks apart where they can't communicate with each other, and that's the most effective weapon against this hyper advanced artificial intelligence. And that so the humans end up, spoiler alert, kicking these robots' asses, and the Asgard aliens are just like, oh my god, how did you do that? You're so stupid, But all they were inventing was like hyper laser beams and quantum bombs, and then the robots could like absorb that energy and redirect it at the aliens and vaporize their space battleships and stuff. And the humans just shot bullets at them, and these robots had no idea how to counter it because they were just so far up in this higher level of thinking that they couldn't they were like, we can only 3D print plastic cups. We don't understand, clay pottery. Like, how is that a solution? That's so dumb. It's not even on our radar. And I feel like a lot of people have this Asgard hyper alien advanced mindset of not seeing what's right under our nose. There's a whole bunch of clay everywhere. It's just how we think now, that we're just so forward thinking on all of our solutions that we have to outsmart everything that's ever been done before, whereas there are some just really robust traditional skills that we could re-implement to solve a lot of this stuff. Yeah.
Yeah, dude, that's a very good point. That's a very good point.
But, other than that, with other things that, like tractors and drills and things like that, we can't, technology really comes in handy with that type of stuff. And the solution to that is open source technology. And maybe I should have called the video that, but really that's at the core of what I'm talking about. And that became a popular idea with software and the digital realm, open source code. But this open source ecology project, that's what they do. They do all the footwork, invent these things that don't have patents on them, and they make it open source for people to replicate. And I know I keep referring to these guys, but they've done a lot of work on what I'm kind of talking about, and I'm just going to screen capture it again real quick. They have a micro house, a micro combine, electrical motor generator, a wind turbine. They even have an open source welder where you can build your own welding machine, a power supply, a truck. You can build a truck. A rod and wire mill where you can make your own fence, a press forge, a plasma cutter, I'll just kind of scroll down through here. They even have a CNC precision machine. That is crazy. An induction furnace where you can take waste metal, throw it in there, and reform it into new things. I mean, you can really just build yourself a whole town if you have a few people working together. Using these things. Here's this power cube right here, and the tractor. But anyway, I just wanted to highlight that. Open source is the way to go. We need to make some moves in that direction to where people are able to construct their own thing, their own device, and be able to repair it. And if they built it, they'll be able to easily repair it. They have an intimate understanding of how it works and what's going on with it. And if something's not going totally right, they'll be like, oh, it's this thing over here. Oh, this bearing's out. Oh, I should probably go make another one. That to me is an exciting future there, rather than having to do something you don't want to do to pay for this thing that it's far more expensive than it needs to be. Because there's a huge problem with John Deere tractors. If your John Deere tractor messes up, you're not allowed to fix it yourself. You have to call John Deere company and have them fix it for an exorbitant amount of money. And they just have these farmers over a barrel. And so what they ended up doing is going on the black market and getting special computers that hack into their tractors, because they're all computer based, in order to replace a sensor. And they'll charge you like $1 million to come out there or haul your tractor off to their facility to replace one sensor. And it's just a scam. It's a racket. It's terrible, and it's an awful scourge on humanity itself to do that to human beings trying to grow their own food or provide food for other people.
Yeah, it's just so wasteful.
Yeah, agreed. I don't know. It makes me think what you said there also with the thing regarding the old waste metal. It's like, I don't know, kind of then was thinking something. I don't know, like Lynn had said one time about material and clothes and different materials, really how we can be much smarter about these things. And I guess in that sense with I guess the land too, so that we look at it how can we minimize I guess on the land stuff, so we don't need all kinds of machinery and all kinds of stuff. But I mean, to use nature to our advantage in that sense, to work together with nature in a smart way.
Yeah, that would be wonderful. Just using hand tools and things of that nature. Yeah, and people can do that. There's a lot of Amish communities out there that are surviving. They're doing well. The only problem they have is the gene pool problem, and that's primarily because a lot of people don't want to do that. They still do want a little bit of technology. They do still want that modern edge that technology gives you. And I mean, maybe people would do that later on in the future. But I get a sense that the majority of people won't do that. I enjoy doing that. I'm sure everybody in this room enjoys doing that, but I guess I don't see a lot of people wanting that. They still want the nice things, and I guess that's the point of why I want to make this video series on this, is because a lot of people are trapped and they don't want to go be Amish, And this seems like it's a middle way, a middle solution where you could make a sustainable, self-reliant farm for yourself. Because a lot of the times in a family, the only person you know, doing this stuff is like the guy, and maybe the woman can do some of the machinery and things like that. But more often than not, what I've seen on a lot of these things is it's just like the dad out there doing all of the stuff, and this machinery enables one man to achieve a whole lot of work within one day. And I feel like that is something that people would invest themselves into, see it as a viable option to escape a life that they don't really want to be a part of, to contribute to a society that's very sick, that they don't want to participate in any longer. And you know, if enough people do that, then the society will have to renegotiate with us if we want to be back a part of it. And maybe start doing some of these things, such as, you know, living more in harmony with nature, and not being so exploitive on a lot of these things, and most of all, over us, you know, exploiting us, and using up our time and our energy towards things that don't ever result in a better life for any of us. So yeah, I guess that's why I hammer on this this alternative technology, even though I do agree with you, Lynn, that it would be much better if we didn't use this type of stuff and do these types of things. Yeah.
I do think that there's a place for technology, but it's like maybe it's more like how you use it too. Because yeah, if we use it too much, then we lose touch with what's like works for the whole the ecosystem. Maybe now we just see it. Oh, this is so effective way, but at the same time, birds and insects are suffering from it.
Yeah, that's true, and we also suffer from it as well. You know, if you get on a tractor and you know, like or a tiller and till up your land, I mean, you're becoming much smaller and weaker compared to if you're out there with a hand tool uh, doing it yourself. You become very big, very strong, very confident. You know, you have all this rush of other hormones that you get when you look out upon the land that you just worked and feel good and happy inside. Yeah, that's true. You're absolutely right about that.
Yeah, I guess like, but I wouldn't go tilling land because that's not really working for us well. It damages the microbiology in the soil, which works together with the plants to get them the nutrients that they need, and then we don't even need that bioreactor to create those nutrients to add them, because then the biology takes care of that for us.
Well, go over some of your techniques that you would do to start a farm. How would you go about it without breaking up the ground, and getting enough crops to feed your family for the year?
You would have to get compost going so that you, in that sense, can add on top of the land nutrients. That's one way to help the microbiology to start up the process more, and also to have plants growing all year round. This helps. to keep that process going and microbiology alive, because they work together with the plants. And yeah, to have a diverse planting, so that it's not just one kind of plant, that it's like diverse system, that helps a lot.
Yeah, that's true. Composting, yeah, you don't even need a bioreactor or any kind of thing like that. If you get enough waste and are able to spread it around and have the microbiome begin to feed on it and produce all these good nutrients in the ground. I wonder if you could, have a type of greenhouse big enough where you're planted into the natural ground, to do this all year round and avoid your crops kind of dying off in the winter. That could help facilitate a food supply all year round, and really help people kind of be self-reliant.
That sounds like an interesting idea to try. And one good thing to do is also use perennial plants, also, that even if they die back in the winter, they come back next year.
Yeah. So, Lavan, me and you have been talking a lot about cymatics and geometry, and you've done a whole lot more research on this type of thing, and I was wondering if you could share some of your knowledge there with us, just whatever you feel like is pertinent to this conversation here, or anything else that's kind of on your mind, that we've been talking about here.
Yeah, so I guess to me, the thought kind of starts off in the backdrop of this uh, different applications of technology. And if we think of it as like a sort of moral aesthetic, to be one with the land and to allow that to continuously affect our judgment in terms of like how we create these things, on one level, it's can we have just the machines we have now? Is it possible to make those in a non-wasteful way? Is it possible to perhaps recycle plastic with the fungus and then maybe recreate a new kind of plastic that's made from plant materials? It's like easily, I don't know. It's like I want computers that aren't like this. Is it possible? And I think that some of the ideas that I'm seeing are coming from, or how that would happen is like along the lines of that line of thinking, like sound manipulation, light manipulation. So yeah, it's like a huge discussion, and it's definitely relevant, I think, because the more we play with those things, the more possibility of creating like a tactile, structural sort of machine that is actually projected, right? So, I mean, the cymatics part of it goes into the study of the geometric forms. There isn't really like a study that goes into depth of analyzation, but people are starting to map it out and have opinions about what it might mean. I forgot the name of the scientist, but he has a YouTube series called The Secrets of Cymatics, and it goes into this book that he co-authored and some of the research and experiments that he did with cymatics and what it might mean about light and what it might mean about sort of how the neocortex structures itself and why we have like cones in our eyes that correspond to a certain kind of it's like a lattice structure, and it might be the same structure that exists in the field of light. And so this stuff is done with a machine that is semi-spherical, and it has a certain amount of water, and the sending these sound waves into it basically creates it at a high enough resolution that it's usually pretty. It looks really perfect and intricate, and so the idea is that light and sound are actually 3D, and they are all spherical hologram projections. So that's what is happening when you shine a light, and that's what's happening when sound occurs wherever it is. And so the applications of this are already being played with, even if the holographic sort of structural aspect is not understood. That research can still be done. But besides that, there are all these applications of light or sound already. They know how to levitate sand using a standing wave with speakers surrounding from four sides, layers of speakers on four sides centered towards the middle. And they can throw sounds back and forth to the point where they balance out and create a standing wave to levitate matter. And so we can already do that. And then on the light sound of it, we actually do have ultrasound holograms that have tactile feedback and that can produce sound. So you basically have a technology emerging where we will be able to use sound and physical with physical connotations. It's strong enough to potentially even hold chemicals and to separate them. And so you see how precise it can be. And this is a new kind of matter that I think could use some investment to intertwine it with our to have technology that is not wasteful, potentially. And so that's kind of where I am thinking of it, and kind of tying it into this podcast and what other things that we're talking about, because they have to do with nature and stuff,
Yeah, it brings to mind, you were talking about suspending molecules and water within it. It reminds me of this guy at Stanford University, the Dr. Manu Prakash. He invented with his team a water droplet computer that travels along strips of metal that are magnetized. And within each of these water droplets, you can put different chemicals, medicine, elements. He demonstrates this with food dye. He has different food dye in there, and you can keep them separate and have them travel along these tracks right here, and they're little water droplets moving, and then you can have them converge into larger blobs that create new medicines or new chemicals and new chemical reactions without touching them in these water droplet, these what do you call them? Like these droppers that they use with their hands, and they kind of have a needle point on them, and they're kind of dropping them each of these little holes, and takes them so much longer. He was also saying you could use this as a computing device, where each of these different water droplets, with these different colors, could be detected with a photoreceptor, and you would be able to do the same work as a computer, but without electrons traveling. I guess the primary application of it really is combining new chemicals together very quickly without a human doing it very slowly and making mistakes and anything like that. But I wonder how you could apply cymatics to something like that as well. It just to me, I don't know why in my mind I thought about that, but But it seems like you could do a lot of really crazy stuff with that as well, combining those two powerful technologies together.
Well, I think for me, where they kind of go hand in hand, I think cymatics will sort of help us understand how things correspond on some kind of level. The idea is like everything, has a wavelength basically, and is like perhaps tied to biological intelligence by sympathy. And if we can learn how these different waves create these different structures, perhaps we could start to understand like how the body is trying to move. Because what comes to mind is the body has all these different cycles, and so does nature. And so perhaps like if one pattern is experienced, it like interlocks with other patterns in certain areas, and affecting one pattern would affect another in a particular order, and that is yet to be a science. And perhaps that would mean that like you could send a sound wave at a certain frequency that could affect water, and then you could affect chemicals like separately by this correspondence. And then the hologram stuff, I think we're basically heading towards like tactile energy plasma sort of devices that could like force fields or like bridges, or like how you're saying like paths, right? For what if you like needed to reroute water in like a reservoir or something, and you wanted to create like a bridge just for a few minutes of flow or something like that, and you could use this stuff for basically creating like infrastructure that's like wear resistant, configurable, and
yes.
yeah, I mean,
or even irrigation. Yeah, like
yeah, right.
Like you could have a system set up and deliver nutrients on the fly to particular plants that might be struggling more than others. And with that said, I know the best way is to let nature take its course, but I'm just really brainstorming here and thinking about good applications that could be used on a higher or a bigger scale.
Yeah, no, that's exactly what I was thinking.
Like it'd be pretty crazy to have these kind of metal tracks that you magnetize, and then all of a sudden water is flying out of the creek into your garden if it hasn't rained in a few days, rather than using pipes and sprinklers and all of this extra metal and material to pipe water into your garden. That'd be kind of cool.
I don't know. I think in that sense, I don't know what I'm kind of thinking also is just in that sense looking at I guess the surroundings that are there already to kind of I guess plant things in a way, like to use like the if there's a slope, to use that for to use that in a clever manner, so that then the water would flow down or something already on its own, and different things like that. So it could, like, for instance, somewhere go into the soil and it come up somewhere where it's needed, and different things like that.
Yeah, you're right. I'm just thinking about like droughts and stuff like that, because that is what led humans to develop all of this technology that I think is going too far. But that when we didn't have this technology, people did experience a lot of famines and dust bowls and things of that manner. And if you could find a way to like pull some water out of the ground and throw it onto your crops, and not have that happen, but also not have Monsanto either. I'm really just speaking about a middle way. Only really using this stuff if you need it, and to avoid reliance on a big system that isn't really serving anybody. But I do agree with you. Like there's a lot of natural ways that you could deal with it, but if it doesn't rain for a really long time in certain regions, it, that type of stuff doesn't work. I mean, unless you save up a lot of water in like a tank or something, which you can do that, but eventually that might run out, and that's why we invented drills to go deep into the ground and find the water that's hiding, and have wells. And even wells dry up unless you keep drilling even deeper and deeper. And then we had to come up with diamond bit carbide drill bits to get even deeper into the rock to avoid water running out in very, very long droughts in certain parts of the world.
To keep the water in the landscape, we need trees and ecosystems, and that's would replenish the wells.
Yeah, it would. That would require a lot of changing of the laws and changing a lot of the political landscape to get to that point. And I suppose that's why I am talking about bioreactors and things of that nature, where people can get past all of that, to where we don't have to wait for the world to see what we're seeing, to care for the forests, care for the ecosystem, but to create your own ecosystem that then could branch out or spread out into these more barren areas, sort of creating an oasis with some of this technology to jumpstart that process. But yeah, you're right. We need all of these forests and things, but the trick is we would have to then begin to buy up all of this land, from Bill Gates and all of these rich people that don't really care at all what we're talking about living in harmony with nature. But what could happen is people could lead by example and start showing the world what you really can do with abandoned technology or things that people just don't think would be useful anymore, to facilitate this new way of thinking, and living in harmony the best that we can with nature in this strange world that we find ourselves in.
This old new way of thinking, of living in harmony with nature, because it's existed and it is existing and it will keep existing, and it's what keeping everyone alive.
Yeah.
Yeah. But yeah.
Yeah, I agree.
It's important.
It is important, and I'm trying to find every which way to get to that point without an act of Congress, because a lot of that stuff, like protecting the forests and letting them grow and letting things get back to old growth forests, requires that level of change that is impossible for an individual to pursue. But with the assistance of some of these alternative technologies, an individual, one man or one woman could go about making their property exactly that, something that flourishes and lives, and it might require a little jump start from some of these alternative technologies, in order to do that, because a lot of people don't have a lot of land, and it'd be very hard to get like an old growth environment or something like that going. But if people could begin to see the benefit maybe the culture would slowly change in that direction, to something that would make sense. I don't know,
Yeah.
but I suppose my focus is, what can one human being do with the technology that we've invented so far without trying to convince the rest of the world, that this is the way to go? Um, yeah.
Yeah, that's I think about that too. I guess like I think it just what kind of world do you want to live in is the question that like people with money I wish they would think about that more. And I guess the problem is that like everybody is, you know, in their own situation, and you know, it's hard to know what to really invest in, or what even if you're investing something, it's like that's the future. What about now? What about your kids? And people just kind of like get swept into inaction probably. But you know, if somehow we could sell this difference of aesthetic, because if you notice, it's like really distinct. I was thinking about like Yellowstone. I was watching it, and Chief Thomas in season 3, he's like making this case about, you know, these forces and the trying to keep the land the same. And he ends up like talking about this a little bit, and he says like there's two kind of futures that we can have, and there's the one that like you want to live in, and he's talking to this other guy, and he's like saying, or there's the one where we have basically like sprawling pastures, and we've learned to like integrate ourselves into this like frontier that never really changes and never should change, you know, and we should yeah, he's I can't remember exactly how he puts it. He says like there's that future, but or there's the one where, you know, you have like these concrete wastelands, and he's like there's actually only one future. That future doesn't exist. I think that's really true. But the thing is that this difference is, I think, intimately tied into what we're talking about, the different technologies and how we use them. And the one where it's a concrete wasteland comes with certain kinds of applications of technology that are really just wasteful. And then this other reality, which is the only one really, comes with all these that like we don't have actually, and we should have. Like I think we can invent and create all these things yesterday, and it's just such a shame that it requires so much effort. It's like it requires effort because of just circumstance. People just don't pay attention, and we've been pretty advanced on the technological side of things, like all these things that we could potentially play with today, we could have done 20 years ago potentially. It's recent innovation, but it's not necessarily like groundbreaking technology. It's just reapplication. Anyways, yeah.
I don't know, and in that sense, I kind of feel like that kind of mindset regarding like to alt tag could also be, well, I guess in that sense apply to like old stuff we have that we like can repurpose those things in new ways that we haven't thought of yet. And yeah, that's what I was thinking.
Yeah, in a sense that not everything needs to be new and produced for the purpose. You can use something that was made for something else and use it for another purpose.
Yep. So like repurposing things. That's true.
Yeah, but this sounds so amazing. This new cymatic stuff that you're talking about, and also Naram, what you're talking about with this modular stuff. with the power cube and how you can use it in many different machines.
Yeah.
Yeah. So that's amazing too.
Yeah, I am very interested in this this cymatic thing because I saw this electric motor that they invented where it looked like a cymatic design in it, but really it was like matching up with the flux fields of a magnetic field in order to get like far more efficiency out of each turn of the motor. And you know that's the thing about geometry. Like there's so many things about geometry that we could unlock and understand and bring about greater efficiency to everything really. I get sick of these 90-degree square concrete cubed buildings, devices. And you know, I think a lot could be unlocked by learning from nature itself, which is the science of cymatics. You know, it's these natural kind of waveforms that are produced in 3 dimensions that can teach us and show us a lot about what we're missing out on, what we could be doing. You know, we could be, instead of having cranes, having a cymatic generator lifting up heavy objects, or even using it in mining applications to break things apart and get metals, because metals are still very important. You know, we can't use wood for everything, and we do need metal to get into the ground and hammer things together and create robust structures that the wind won't knock down. So all of that is very interesting to me. I need to do a much deeper dive on that type of thing. So
yeah, I don't know, like all of this with like the lifting with the cymatics, and it just reminds me of this old like I don't know, this old theory from like I don't know how many years back that some people would laugh about, like, yeah, that the Egyptians kind of used this kind of tech to make the pyramids or something like that. But it kind of makes me think of that, and maybe it's like, I don't know, like some people were just like, oh man, that kind of stuff is like crazy, like that they did that or whatever. But maybe in a sense, like, nah, it's not crazy. It's like it's actually would be probably much better to be able to like lift things and do all of these different applications without really like I don't know, in that sense I was kind of thinking it's like you have like I don't know, like a sword versus a lightsaber. The sword eventually gets blunt, but the lightsaber never gets blunt. In that sense, and I kind of feel like with the cymatics that there's something similar to that. Like, it wouldn't wear. So then, if it doesn't wear, there's no like other than like I guess the machine getting old. But I mean, that's stuff we can repair in that sense. But in that sense, I kind of also feel like that kind of like thinking regarding like between boxes and nature, which is like, you know, how Ellen Watts would say, nature is wiggly. It's, I don't know, I kind of feel like we need to apply that to the landscape itself, to really like rethink things, to stop thinking in squares regarding the landscape, and to really like rediscover the land that is there. To spend time there, to really rediscover it, how it's flowing, how it's going, and that we're like, okay, so this is flowing like this. Oh, okay, here we could have like this like farm, and then there we can do like this other thing, and then like and just work with it.
Yeah, there's a lot of Egyptian and ancient hieroglyphs, even in Scotland, of like using a tuning fork. And it's associated with the construction of these monolithic structures somehow. So I think they were doing something with sound. And you know, maybe even these great obelisks that they constructed in Egypt had something to do with sound resonance and, levitating heavy objects. I don't know. I feel like I've heard that from somewhere, but I'd have to go look into that. But those structures are very interesting. What are they? What are they doing? And what did they know about sound that we don't know? I don't. It's a very interesting rabbit hole to go down for sure.
Yeah, I think I hear you guys doing a very good job of selling the dream. That's what I want to see. Like this aesthetic is completely different in all these technologies. We probably just haven't even thought about like all the possibilities. But I wanted to mention that cymatics is really just the understudy of the underlying geometry. But really, most of the stuff that you guys were talking about would be more of an application of hologram technology, probably. And it probably will involve the knowledge gained from cymatics. But cymatics is just it's just the phenomena of geometry being cast on a material like such as metal or water. So I just wanted to kind of just mention that. But like in terms of this dream, there is here. Let me try. So imagine like basically like those scenes from Star Trek movies where you see like a ghoul and there's like it's like in some kind of like beautiful garden plains and everybody's wearing white and the teacher's like a hologram like walking around or something like that, and
Yeah.
basically it's like utopia of farmland all over the place, and the frontiers are preserved, and we basically have, so in Star Trek they have a constructor, right? They have like a machine that will zap you food.
Yeah, replicator.
It'll like a replicator, right? So we have actually this thing called constructor theory right now that is is the intention to create a sort of, how like they have this Turing sort of thing where, within a certain level of options you can recreate basically anything that's inside, and it's like the same idea but involving a restructuring of classification for physics to basically classify things in terms of constructors, which would be the intention to build these machines that could zap anything. It's like they're trying to make physics a new branch that basically reclassifies everything already known in physics for the purpose of being able to integrate it into this machine. And so that changes everything, right? Because it's no longer a definition, but it's like a interfacing into a particular type of like subset. And this, so if we could imagine, so holograms, constructors, essentially elimination of waste completely, and because like if you can imagine what this means to do is to be able to create things, well, of course, then destroying things, perhaps instant recycling, molecular splitting of things into their components, and okay, so it's like we're selling this dream. So basically we have like the opportunity, even if it's not like, if someone were to see this, they would be like, okay, well, this is where we want science to go, It's not necessarily about saying like, oh, well, this stuff is going to happen tomorrow, but, we're going to invest in the land again. We're going to change the way we operate. We're going to invest in this kind of science. We can get involved now for certain experiments and things like that. And things could change very quickly.
Yeah. It also brings to mind the Antikythera device, that thing they found in a shipwreck that like helps you navigate the ocean and know the lunar cycles and things like this. There's this guy on YouTube called ClickSpring, and he is rebuilding the Antikythera device by hand. He works with brass. He sands it down. He hammers inscriptions into it. He does all this really really crazy cool stuff, and as he's building it, he's figuring it out how you map the calendar in association with your location on the ocean. I went ahead and threw it up here on my screen share for the viewers, but it's absolutely amazing what he's done all on his own, figuring this thing out. And he has all these museums and places wanting to sell it to them or whatever, and he's just like, go build your own, go figure. I have all the videos showing you how to build it. Dive in and figure it out, and you'll learn a lot more from it by actually doing it. But that's another idea. Mechanical computers. People in the remote past had these mechanical computers that they used to navigate the whole planet. And mechanical computers have a lot of really great applications rather than just, some battery-powered type of device or something reliant on the internet. There's something about having it in your hand and you can dial it in to give you the information that you need that is just amazing to me. That I think is worth rediscovering. It's worth jumping back into. Because, not only can you tell what time it is with this, you could do all kinds of things with it. I see a lot of people, on Minecraft, constructing huge mechanical devices in a digital realm, basically like Rube Goldberg devices to, like water their crops or to make a train go down the tracks or, whatever. I think there's still a lot of life left in mechanical engineering rather than just this purely electrical thing where we're obsessed with energy production, solar panels, wind turbines, oil, internal combustion, just all of these other things, whereas you could just wind something up with your hand and get some pertinent information back out of it. Particularly with the advent of 3D printers, you could 3D print a lot of these complex devices and whatnot, rather than doing it by hand like this guy is, which I'm sure takes decades of skill and patience to hone a skill such as that to rebuild the Antikythera mechanism.
Yeah, probably like it really would in that sense. But yeah. But I do think like looking like at old tech and stuff like that. I don't know. I mean, it kind of made me think of this like. Well, I mean, in the past, for instance, in the Netherlands, we used to have like they would have like water wheels. They would just utilize the river and the stream of basically the river would power the mill, and he would just create, or like windmills and stuff like that. There's like a lot of old tech there. Like, people be looking at it like that's all old fashioned. We have this diesel generator here or whatever, or this all of this other stuff. It's like, yeah, but like all of that old stuff still works, and all of these mechanical things still work. And the thing is, like, they don't require anything. They don't require gas. They don't require anything. They just need to be built. And I kind of also feel in that sense that, I don't know, like a lot of people that are done building all these things in like Minecraft and all of that stuff, it's like, I don't know, I'm feeling like, I don't know, humanity as a whole, it's like, there's so much like imagination there to do these things, And I kind of feel like we need to like take that imagination out of like these video games and like start doing it in the real world. Just start building this shit.
Yeah.
Start figuring out these different methods of doing this, and combine that with like looking at one's surroundings and really incorporate that into it, and be like, okay, well, there are these droughts here going on. It's like something, for instance, that started happening in the Netherlands, with like droughts going on in like the farm fields. It's all like monoculture, and then these floods and all kinds of stuff, and then there not being like a good water cycle, and then the real reason for that being, there used to be back in the day, like probably like Middle Ages, it started to disappear already, but like from Middle Ages to all the way before, like when the Romans were still like walking around there in their wooden forts, they had their this massive forest with all these oak trees there, and that kept the water basically stable in the area. But now, they then eventually decided, well, like, we're gonna build those ships. We're gonna go and go to Indonesia with our ships and get that spice and gold, and like go to Africa, get those slaves, and we go all over the place. But they never bothered to think about, well, that they basically got the entire forest gone, and over a very, very long period of time. They didn't just clear it, it would grow back, but eventually it became like a barren desert, and there was nothing there anymore. And then it became, a very big problem. Like, it became like a dust bowl, basically. And started to swallow up cities cities, villages, and then different like little areas, and it started to become a huge problem. And then, like, now still it's like that there's all these problems going on, but the thing is that if we then look at the surroundings and be like, okay, well, we have these farm fields here. How about we make this a little bit here more diverse, and like over here, like let's like bring this in this nature area, because it is already a nature area. Let's bring that old oak forest back.
Yeah.
Over time, it stabilizes, and things become much better. Because then things become better for the farmers. They don't have their droughts anymore. They don't have all their floods. But like a flood comes and it just takes all their crop away, or this big rain coming and it's all falling, and it just kills their crop. And other years, the drought kills all their crop, and there's like no balance. And if there's this ecosystem, these trees that used to be there again. And all of this stuff balances out, and in that sense, like, if we combine this knowledge with, like, well, in that sense, like the technology that you're here talking about, then we really have something going. And in that sense, I kind of feel like it's a rethinking for all of us, going from thinking in squares to thinking in wiggles.
Yeah, thinking in wiggles. Yeah, exactly like how Alan Watts puts it. Yeah. And I think that problem that you're talking about, the deforestation and the dust bowls, that comes directly from the lusting of the city after all the resources. If we could move away from this city mentality to this Henry David Thoreau, Ralph Waldo Emerson, self-reliance line of thinking, where you go out, you pick your trees, you don't take more than you need to build your cabin, to build your tools, you're not going to find this terrible, terrible damage in regions of the earth. What you'll find is a few stumps on a person's personal property, and they're probably not going to need to cut down their whole surrounding forest to do what they need to do. And then all of that stuff will slowly grow back by the time their kids are old enough to, go out and build their own things. As those things are growing up, they're going to cut those other things down. And by the time your grandkids are coming around to be old enough, maybe that tree that you cut down so long ago and dropped those seeds is going to be big enough for them to use. And, that's how we used to do things. And we didn't seem to have that big of a problem. I know there's a whole lot more of us now, but trees are really the only renewable resource that we have. And we're not using it in the way that it can be easily renewable. Most things that we do now is use pine trees because they grow back so very quickly. And that served us well, I suppose. But having only pine trees all over the place, that's not good for the ecosystem either. But having a focus on what can you use on your own personal land and what can you do with it, and if people don't like cutting trees and things like that, which I understand. We do have concrete. We can dig these holes into the ground and get all of this limestone out, and there are 3D concrete printers available now that you can use to build your structure. And I see no reason in the world that we can't start building our own 3D printers to build custom structures that are beautiful, that aren't just, these 90-degree angles here and there. And, as far as I know, taking rocks out of the ground isn't harmful to the environment. Concrete seems to be a good resource that we can use if people don't want to, cut all of the trees down.
If we think about technology as the practical application of knowledge, then yeah, also like knowledge of the different plants and how to use them, and how the ecosystem works and how it stabilizes the water cycle. That is also kind of then a technology if we apply it to the landscape.
Yeah, it is. And also, earth homes. Using impacted bricks to build your home, and then putting up water barriers around it to keep them from eroding. That's another solution. That there are devices that you can dig into the earth and pack these bricks very tightly and make buildings out of them. Or you can dig underneath the ground and make yourself a hobbit hole or something. But if you're just one man, it comes in handy to have a tractor or a piece of technology to facilitate that, instead of hiring a whole team of people that'll cost you an arm and a leg to do that. So there's 3 ways, right there that we've outlined that you can build structures sustainably. And another good thing about the earth homes, they stay at like a constant 60 to 70 degrees all year round, and all you really have to do is heat them in the winter. You don't need to air condition them because the earth air conditions it in effect for you. So there you go, saving a lot more energy, because the most energy hungry devices in our homes are HVAC units, heating, ventilation, air conditioning, and there's simple solutions for that as well.
Sounds good. And then there's also this phenomenon of communities helping each other to build houses too.
Yeah, it is. It's I find with a lot of people I talk to, it's so difficult to get a community together in person. It's easy for, like all of us talking, like we're on totally different parts of the planet, It's easy to find a community online, but it's so much more difficult to get a community in person to help you do these things, which again is why I'm trying to highlight these alternative technologies, because a lot of us are on our own in real life. Like, we're alone. We don't have anybody to really help us. Maybe we have, a spouse or something and some other family members, At best, we'd be lucky to have 5 people help us, develop this new self-reliant way of living. So yeah, that's why I do highlight this so much, because it's hard to build a community. It's very difficult.
Yeah. So, agreed. About Earth homes, there are some in the Netherlands, a few places that I actually know of where there were some families that actually built those kinds of homes. There was like somewhere close in one city that I used to go to high school to. That there was something like that, and then also one that I knew about because of my university where I studied, and I posted a picture of it in a round table. It's basically a hobbit home. I think from what I looked it up, and the dude who built it was one man who built it for his family. He built the hobbit home himself for less than 4,000 euros. So with like material, like natural materials that he would find.
That's amazing,
So
man.
I think that's like it is.
Yeah, I'm showing people some pictures of these earth homes and hobbit holes and whatnot. They're very beautiful too. I mean, they're aesthetically pleasing to the eye. I'd enjoy living in a home like that. That'd be really cool. Literally cool. It would stay cool in there.
Yeah, I think the education system has something to do with the reason why this isn't like an attractive business opportunity.
Absolutely.
I think that if we could see some of the infrastructure of these places being built into community education, perhaps some kind of training or something,
Yeah.
where it's like you basically like, okay, we're gonna build this sprawling landscape near your city, and we're going to build big facilities that you can just use to like teach or maybe create a business workshop. I mean, people already are using those kinds of things all over cities, like rent workshops and things like that, right?
Yeah.
And so people are clearly experimenting with this kind of dream, but they're doing it in a way that's like just too expensive. Just too expensive.
Yeah, I'm seeing pictures of people building like adobe homes underground, and they're sticking Coke bottles, glass bottles, inside the structure to let natural sunlight in. So they're repurposing trash into a functional feature of their home. That's very beautiful when they put it together like that.
I've seen something like that in like a documentary, and it was colored glass too, so it made like a pretty nice light inside.
Yeah, yeah. Yeah, I think I saw that same thing, yeah. And I just come across another picture. They have these towers with these bottles stuck inside them, and I'm sure it's beautiful inside there.
Yeah, and I don't know. I also think, like in that sense, when you look at these like Earth homes and you look at these Hobbit homes and things like that, it all has, or like it in general has one thing in common, and that's it's more like imitating nature. It's more thinking in wiggles, thinking in like round shapes and not this like square mentality. And I think that's I don't know. I kind of feel like that's at the root of it, and I kind of also had like been playing around with the word planned obsolescence, and like looked into obsolescence. Well, like what does it really mean? What are the synonyms of obsolescence? And I looked into it, and I was just like annihilation, death, destruction. And I don't know, in that sense, I suddenly was just like to myself, because I'd been looking into like the Eros, as in like the life force energy, and like Thanatos as its shadow connected to death. And it made me like go like, hey, wait, is this like Thanatos? Is this like this square thinking and all this other shit going on? Is this like connected to this? Because it's not really like, I don't know, like life affirming in that sense, or like it doesn't benefit the whole of life, or like this other thing seems to be, but you're not both being linked in that sense. But I don't know, I kind of feel like there's this like, I guess, a need to like, I don't know, tap into that like life force energy again in that sense, but also connected to like, I guess, well, the great mother, like to nature itself, to combine these two things again, and to start thinking in, I don't know, like in a manner that's like has both like this, I guess, Eros warrior energy, but also the great mother energy, and like you combine that, so it's not leading to death and to these concrete wastelands. Because if you think about it, it's like it's a hellscape where if it would have been all like actually ecosystems, and you create your food forests, your permaculture farms, and use this kind of tech, that it's like it's suddenly becomes like a way different place. It becomes a wiggly place, basically, where the whole like, well, concrete landscape that's like it, that's basically dead, is just, well, in that sense, it's all squares. If you think about it, that's kind of what it is. And I don't know, in that sense, it's like I read something about like Thanatos being like that, what pulls us back into the immaterial, something along these lines. And I kind of feel like, I don't know, it's like, yeah, it's like a way of thinking, I think, in that sense. And we need to like, yeah, like changed our mindset, and then suddenly all of these options that we're talking about are suddenly gonna pop up and be like, oh, yes, we can do all of these things. We can, well, like you said, use clay. We can use wood in a proper manner. Be like, okay, here's these trees I can get. The rest I'm gonna like leave, and like gonna do my thing here. Make like a earth home, like that one guy had done. That was like less than 4,000 euros, which is very cheap for a home, to be honest. You just have to get the land still too. So I mean, I guess that there's some cost for that, but it's like, you know, and then just think in this like wiggle mindset. And combine that with, I guess, like what you had been talking about the, I guess, because you were talking about like the Slayer mentality. I think if you combine that with like Mother Earth, you get the wiggle mindset. I'm gonna coin that right now based on Alan Watts, because that dude's awesome.
Yeah, it was a good talk that he had. He was sitting out in nature drinking tea, talking about the wiggly nature of reality, and we're trying to make everything 90-degree angle squares, and that's just not going to work out. It's going to make everybody sad in the long run, and it has. We are all very sad about how things have turned out. There's a better way to do this thing that we're trying to do. We don't need to have this Blade Runner artificial intelligence future. We also don't all need to be Amish. There's a middle way through the marriage of Mother Earth and the Slayer mentality, the warrior father masculinity side, to where we can do these things. where you can be like, okay, I see the point Mother Earth's making. Okay, I see the point that the Father is making here. We can combine them together and birth a new future out of those two ideas coming together. And we see this fight between genders now. This crazy fight going on, and the collapse of marriage and the collapse of the nuclear family that is seen as such an evil way of living and doing life. And we're throwing all our traditions out the window, throwing the baby out with the bathwater, literally throwing the baby out. Nobody wants to have kids anymore because they don't want to bring them into this dark future they feel, or they don't know how they can afford it, or they don't know what to do, or how to manifest a good home to where they can do what they want to do without being a slave to society, and create children that aren't brainwashed in public school. And how do you do all of this? How do you make all of this happen? How do you become truly self-reliant? Those are the things that I'm interested in trying to manifest and make. I don't want to rely on some soulless system. And also, I know Mother Nature will kill you if you're not careful, or if you're not ready for a drought, or if you don't know what plant to get out of the forest to cure a disease. The knowledge is key, and applying it in a way that we bring our traditions up into the future. Why can't we have a farm on a rocket ship? What is so radical and crazy about that idea, about having our traditions while we enjoy exploring the future with our technology, living in harmony with everything?
Yeah, I think you did it.
Yeah.
Oh, go ahead.
Vision for the future.
Yeah, that's what I would like to see. Put it very well.
Yeah, agreed. But yeah, and in that sense, like, I don't know, I kind of feel like it's probably going to be like first, like, these, I guess, pioneers going out there and doing these kind of things, and then from there on out, eventually, like, I don't know, I kind of feel like the communities are going to build from that, and like, these different people having these doing these things, having their families and doing all these different things, and slowly, like, they're like, oh, you're doing it too, and then it's, and then that, like, that, through that networking, brings it, like, I would hope, like, more closer to, like, I guess the circles of people that are, like, I don't know, like, that you could actually go over to another hobbit home and be like, hey, like, do you perhaps have this, like, specific attachment, what I can borrow and stuff like that, so I can actually do stuff like that, and, like, from that slowly, like, build, like, community, maybe, like, even build, like, shared spaces where you can just, like, I don't know, when we do a harvest or something, we can, like, hold a feast together. We celebrate well, we celebrate life and all the good things.
Yeah. And, the only way that can happen is if we get away from these societal jobs that don't bring us any joy. Everybody's contributing all of their time, effort, and energy into creating something that doesn't care about them. And if you're spending your time instead working your land, spending time with your family, you'll have time for those feasts. People have no time for those get-togethers. That's why we don't have communities anymore. That's why a lot of people are trapped. And I think a lot of these types of ideas have been worked on individually, and now it's time to bring them all together and show examples of how this way of living could be sustainable, how you could really do it. And one of the big keys to that is acquiring your own land, which does require money. So how do we go about doing this? How do we generate enough money to get this land that has been taken from us and that we've been tricked into getting an apartment, renting, not pursuing a life where we do have land. That's the number one thing, because we are kind of in a ditch where you do got to have some of this money to get these things to make this happen. We just kind of go out into some land that Bill Gates owns, or the railroad, or whatever, they'll arrest you. They're not going to let you grow food there. They're not going to let you live out there. It's not going to happen. But there are places, thankfully, still left in America where you can get land for a reasonable price. May even get a farm loan that you can pay back over time, or even fool around with doing some day trading or doing an online job or something like that to generate that income, to start doing this, to start experimenting with how you could sustain yourself and be self-reliant. But it is going to take pioneers and people to show people the way, where you don't have to spend your money and waste your time trying to figure it out. Combining all of these different efforts, technologies, and techniques into concise videos and tutorials, just showing exactly people how to do these things. And that's what I'd like to start doing. That's exactly why I have been working on my workshop, to get some of this stuff going, and teaching myself welding, and teaching myself a little bit more about mechanical engineering, and getting into the mindset of, if I want something, I'm going to have to make it myself. I'm going to have to figure it out.
That is great. You're taking it into your own hands, because it is in our hands collectively, and everyone can do their own path through this, and then hopefully also, like, together we're stronger too.
Yeah. And I think a lot of people are just so unmotivated and not interested, in getting out there and making money, or they're like, for what? For why? What am I doing? If we could show people that there is a place that you can finally get to rest somewhat, to not worry. I won't say rest, because it involves a lot of hard work and stuff, but at least you'll have these freedoms to have these feasts and have these friends and develop these communities and have a much healthier and mentally stable way of life. I think that could light a fire under people to start doing these things. Because, sacrifices will have to be made, in the way of doing things we don't want to do to generate this money, to buy this land, and to get to these points where we're free from this type of tyrannical bullshit that nobody likes. And it makes everybody very unhappy. And it leads them to getting on these neurotransmitter drugs to try to convince themselves that they're happy, and this is what they have to do for the rest of their life, and this is what we have to get our kids to do. And you got to go to public school, and you got to raise your hand to go to the bathroom, and you have to crop all of these other creative ideas out of your head and forget about your dreams and forget about the good future we could have, and chop everything down because it's for the AI and the robot future, and we'll download our brains into Neuralink, and we don't have to worry about it anymore. All our pain will go away. That's just terrifying to me. That's awful. And that's just not going to work out in the long run at all.
Yeah.
Yeah, definitely don't want the Terminator future.
No, that would suck.
Yeah, I just think people need to get a little bit more educated on how things actually end up working out. You know, that when we are talking about dreams of the future, there's a lot more hands-off approach, I think, that is more realistic than thinking like this entire planet is a disaster and we have to just think of it as like all of my innovations only. You know, and then coupled with the whole technology overload, it's like people can get very carried away about what like they think needs to be replaced and things like that. And I think that this is a much more realistic approach because the planet is just naturally growing. You really don't have to sacrifice everything we've ever done just because you want to be a little bit progressive. And yeah, so a lot of things are viable to change things right now.
Agreed.
Yeah, definitely.
Well, with all that said, do you guys have anything else that you want to add, or something that kind of popped up in your head through the conversation that you guys want to tackle?
Well, I want to say that I very much appreciate this talk and like seeing the big picture together with you guys.
Thank you, Lynn. Yeah, you as well.
Thank you, Lavan.
Yeah, agreed. I think it's really awesome, like all the different points like that have come up during the talk, like that everyone made in that sense, and I think like I don't know, like you had said, Lavan, like I think it's really like together painting like a good picture of what the future could be like without already the tech that exists in that sense. So you know we can already do it.
Yeah, and there are people already out there doing stuff like what we have mentioned here, so that's very awesome.
Yeah.
Just needs a little bit of advocacy, I guess.
Yeah, there's a bright future ahead. As long as we bring our traditions with us and we don't forget who we are, and stop having these strange fantasies of becoming robotic people that don't need food and don't need to be connected to the land, and actually embrace our deep desires to want to create things and nurture things, because it really is just killing us inside to not have a project to work on, or children to nurture, or a farm and animals to take care of. You know, it did a lot for us, and now we find ourselves in this world where things are taken care of for us, and we don't know what our use is anymore, other than to make a buck and to stuff some prepackaged food in our mouth and go to sleep and repeat that process. And that's just not going to last. There's a lot of people out there that aren't able to make it, and they're not weak people, they're not stupid, they're lost, and we have to find our way back. We have to find our way back, and it's just gonna take some dedication, and a little vision to make that future come and avoid Blade Runner Terminator Land. But yeah, I had a great talk with you guys too. If nobody else has anything they want to add, I'll go ahead and end the podcast. We've been going for about 2 hours now, so that's awesome. I'm glad we got a good long talk in about this stuff. Good deep dive.
Yeah, agreed. I don't know. The only thing that I just wanted to say, it's just like with some of the stuff that you just mentioned, is just like, I don't know. It just reminds me again of, like, I guess, like wanting to become robots and stuff like that. This reminds me again of, like, this, like, Thanatos like, going back to the immaterial kind of stuff. And it's just like, there's another side to it, and there's this, like, inner fire that's there, and we just need to, like, tap into that and actually connect to that bright future that's possible to not, like, be like, all, like, I don't know, I guess, engulfed in all of this stuff that we're seeing, like, everything is so horrible and stuff like that. It's it's not helpful to it's like, yeah, I mean, there's stuff going on, and there's people doing all kinds of stuff, but the thing is that if you just focus on, like, what's all wrong, then, like, it's not going to help in that sense. It's like, one needs to think in like ways, how can I, with what I have, make something for myself and the people around me that I care about, and build community and well, make things better in that sense, in the little ways that one can do this, and remember, or maybe re-remember that what we already have, and use it, and that's not just technology, that's, like, knowledge too, like knowledge of the land, knowledge of, I guess, the past in general. There's a lot of stuff there, like, that we forgot, and but that probably, like, would be best for the future talk about those things that we would do on that. But that's what I wanted to still add.
Yeah, man. You got anything else you want to add, Lavan?
Well, I mean, yeah, I think that part of accessing this aesthetic has a lot to do with mythology for me, so I can see where Bass is trying to pull the conversation, and I'm excited to talk about that as well, perhaps at a different time.
Yeah.
Because there's a lot that can be said about kind of talking about it from a archetypal sort of perspective. I think that when it comes to the roles we play, I think that definitely would, for me, be like one of the guides that I would consult. So, yeah, right on.
All right. Well, I appreciate everybody getting together and having this talk. I certainly got a lot out of it. We'll have more in the future. With that said, I'll go ahead and end the podcast. Thank you, everybody, for listening. I will add some links and things to my description, some websites such as the Open Source Ecology and all that. But anyway, thanks for listening. Until next time.
All right, thanks, everybody.
Yeah.